Welcome back to a Master and Apprentice podcast. Today we're going to be getting into a book review of the Ahsoka book by E.K. Johnston. Um, this was the first Star Wars book I read, and obviously it started me on the right track because it got me further into Star Wars canon and lore, and I was a huge fan. And so I often asked where he should start with, you know, Star Wars books, and this is where I directed him. Um, so we're going to be doing a review on it. Afton,
Yes, sir. I
let's start.
mean, if I'm just gonna start off. I'm just gonna say that. I used to read books a good bit. Haven't in a while, and then I pulled this one up, and I really, I mean, it took me a while to read it just because I had things going on, but I really liked this book. Like, it got in depth with everything, and it had some parts that took a lot of time, but the parts that took a lot of time, they went in depth in what needed to go in depth in. It didn't feel like a slow book, but it was very interesting. And uh, spoiler alert, by the way, read the book before you watch this podcast. But anyway, or watch this YouTube video. But I'm gonna get right into it. I like how in the middle of it, they start mentioning they put pretty much like a cutscene. How they, oh yeah, we're just gonna cut to this different little area in time, and where Bail Organa is talking, blah blah. Here's some things on the news that some things being stirred up on Rada and blah blah blah. That's where Ahsoka is and all that. But they connected the story really well. They started with just Ahsoka, started with her story, and then they switched a little bit to Bail Organa, switched to how he is going to eventually meet her, and then they switched to at some point even like the Inquisitor's perspective. And I really feel like it was just very well put together, and I really like the lore that they added, like especially with the lightsaber. They mentioned how the lightsaber is white and how Ahsoka, it was red at one point, but now they made it white, and I don't know, that was very interesting.
Yeah, I I I'll be honest. When I first read it, I loved it. Obviously, that's why I kept reading. But after reading more and more books, I kind of find this book mediocre. Um, but that's not to say like this book is amazing. It really explains, 'cause we see Ahsoka in Clone Wars, and a lot of the Clone Wars we see are just being goofy and this funny character. A, because it started out as a kid show, but B, because she's this younger character. And we really see her progress in this book. Because in Rebels, she's very adultish. Even in The Mandalorian, she's like wise. So it's kind of like this is a transition period, just like she's really maturing, and she kind of has to because of the scenario she's put in this book. And I don't want to spoil too much for anyone who hasn't read it, but it's very cool to see how she got her lightsabers, her white lightsabers. That was an awesome addition. That being said, it's cool to see how much damage she did without lightsabers for that whole book.
Yeah, I really liked that part too.
That was really just badass, to be honest. It was awesome.
I
I
mean, if I'm gonna put this in a tier list based on what you said, and based on this is just my opinion. I mean, based on the other parts of the saga that I've seen and all that, I'd probably put it. I'm gonna go S A B C D, D being the worst.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it in B or A.
And,
Just
and you can
just
put
to
it
leave
how
them
you want
alone.
because you haven't read any books. So this is just
Yeah.
off of the first one.
Well, if I
I would probably put it on high B because it is just like you haven't read any of the other books.
yeah
You just wouldn't know. But the other books are just they just have so much content. Like this has not a lot of action in it. There's some books that have this much canon and lore, but also so much action, romance, and it's a good book. Don't get me wrong. I love this book. That's why I told you this is the first one you should read because it just starts you off very great. I mean, pretty much everyone, who's my age, like high school and or graduated out of high school, like the younger age. I'm not in high school anymore, obviously, but I'm saying like that generation of, they kind of grew up before the sequels. They love that Clone War era and seeing, you know, that progression of one of the Clone Wars most beloved characters is just awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And just the different relationships she had with different characters, because in the Jedi Order she trusted all the Jedi, and then she goes to this one planet Rada, and she doesn't trust anyone at all at first. Like one of the first priorities she has is getting a lock on her house, even though she has not very many valuables, and the valuables she does have she hides pretty well. So I mean, a lock isn't really necessary, but she just it's character progression, and I really enjoy it because it shows you how she gets from where she was in the Clone Wars to where she was in the Rebels and Mandalorian. The little bit we saw there, it's just
Yeah,
it's a character that everyone loved.
yeah, I agree. It's pretty awesome. I love it. I, is yeah. Well, if we put this on YouTube, we're gonna be doing it tier list, and the way we're gonna be doing this is after every book Afton's read. I probably have read it, but if I haven't, I'll read it. We're gonna add it to this tier list, and um, you know, we'll probably change it as we read more books because, you know, compared to different books, you know, everything's gonna stay the same. But it'll probably go S tier, like S is the highest, A tier, second, B, and then C, D. And I agree it should be between B and A, low A or high B. To be honest, I haven't read a lot of Star Wars like novels that I don't like. So we're also gonna do just any Star Wars content that's, you know, like comics and graphic novels. We'll count all of that as well.
Yeah, so in the tier list, whenever I put this into a video, if you're watching this on YouTube, you already know. I just put it in B as the list. And as we read more books, I very well could put that in A. I very well could put that in C if everything else slaps. So, I mean, it's obviously just not a definite list. And there's like 300 something Star Wars books out there, so we're never going to make a full list. But it's just fun to put them in where we think we are, and we're gonna read the main books if we can. I mean, right now, the next one I'm doing is Dooku Jedi Lost, and I mean, I've heard good things about that, and Sammy's told me good things about that, and I mean, that could be an S tier, and I don't even know it yet. I mean, it just all depends on their correlation to each other. So yeah, that's how this series will be going.
Yep. It is not necessarily like a ranking of like which book is worst, or it's just more like what we enjoy.
Yeah,
And, you know, it's not necessarily like, oh, what has better content, what has better. It's just more or less like, you know, what's better all around, what has lots of canon, but like canon, action, and all of the above. Like, one of my favorite books is Dark Disciple. I've heard a lot of people don't like that book, but I love that book. Or Lords of the Sith. I've heard a lot of people don't like that book, especially, but that's one of my favorite books.
yeah,
So, you know, it's it is a little bit biased because it's what we like, but I mean, like I'm sure a lot of people have Ahsoka super high because, you know, people
love the character
fanboy,
at least.
yeah, love Ahsoka, and I love Ahsoka. I have an Ahsoka pop. I have one of my. I don't know if you guys have seen my vlog yet, but if you see my vlog, I show you I have my Lego minifigure Ahsoka on display. I have like 3 different versions of her. I definitely love Ahsoka, but that's just like I said, the book compared to Dooku or Lords of the Sith or Re- Revenge of the Sith novelization or, you know, any other book, it's just middle of the pack. It doesn't add like a crazy amount. It adds a lot. That's why it's not bottom, but it doesn't add compared to as much as say some other books. I I gave you all the positives. I don't have a lot of negatives. I I I, I guess it's kind of my one negative is it doesn't have too much action. It's a lot about, you know, inner dialogue with Ahsoka, which is fine. I do like that, but that's a little too much of the book. And it gives a lot of detail on these characters that, you know, are within the book on the planet, on the moon that she hides. And most of them end up dying anyway, so it's kind of pointless, I feel like, to add these details and give this story to these characters then that end up most of them just end up dying.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
mean,
kind of
yeah, I definitely agree because just about all of them died by the end of the book. But
yeah, which is
it,
fine. You want to give some people character, but I feel like they get a little too much and they waste a lot of time on that when they could have been, I don't know, they could have introduced a whole different chapter with, you know, the Grand Inquisitor because that was pretty cool to see him at the end, but that was it.
yeah,
That was the end. It wasn't like we got a lot of him.
that and I even think that maybe another chapter explaining more of where Bail Organa was in the whole situation. Like they kind of really explained like what he was doing and all that. But it would be nice to see some of the backstory of how the Senate knew he was a Jedi sympathizer for the longest time, and they never took him out of office. It would be kind
Yeah.
of cool to see how that was a thing. Granted, that's not really pertaining to the plot a ton, but I
But
mean, it's just more fun.
he is a character throughout the book, so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
They just could have directed it in different ways, but again, this is kind of a biased, opinionated thing. That's what we would have liked to see. Maybe you saw exactly what you wanted to see, so don't get mad or offended. It's just we would like to see some development on characters that are going to be throughout Star Wars,
yeah, and
or don't die right away.
yeah,
Like there's the Force Collector book. I really enjoy that book. It's about some characters that we never see or hear about again, but it's a really good book.
and because we're not ranking this high, that doesn't mean don't read the book. I
No,
mean,
I
I
definitely
know it's $10, but I mean, I honestly think this is almost a must read. If you're getting in depth to the Star Wars, if you've seen all the TV shows and all the movies, this is all, in my opinion, it's almost a must read because
no,
it
I
just really
definitely
gives you a
agree.
lot of backstory on it. And if you don't like the book, you're not gonna like the book. But that's just your opinion. And
Mm.
if you love the book, you love the book.
It's a very
Yeah,
if you love Clone Wars, you're gonna like this book because it just makes you look back throughout the Clone Wars and, like I said, one of the most beloved characters throughout that series.
I
Uh,
totally agree.
So it's definitely a must read if you're gonna go through Star Wars canon books or just any Star Wars books because it's a good novel. E.K. Johnston, she has I don't know why she's not gonna go in depth about anything, but she does a lot of female character books. Like she's doing I think a third Padme book, but she's done two Padme books already. She did an Ahsoka book, obviously that's the one we're reviewing. So if you like if you're a female viewer and you really like the female characters in Star Wars, eh, check E.K. Johnson out because she does some good books. I've read two of the Padme books. I haven't read the third one because it's not out yet, obviously. And I've been a fan of all three of the books. They're all a little bit slower, but they still bring a lot of good detailing and storylines to these characters and different perspectives that we never thought about. So check the book out. I enjoy it. I might read it through it again when I finish some of the books I am in. But yeah. Anything else, Afton?
That's
Anything?
about it.
What did you like the most about the book?
I like the character development on Ahsoka because you see from the beginning of Clone Wars to the end of Clone Wars, she's a completely different character. But then when she's in Rebels, she's almost another character from the end of Clone Wars. And I mean, this is really bridging between the two. Like she, towards the end of Clone Wars, was just independent, all by herself, trying to find her way in life. And then I feel like this book really showed her, oh yeah, I mean, she does not that everything's definite now, but she knows to be more careful in everything she does. And I mean, she even mentioned at one point, Barris, how maybe Barris was right about some things, and if the Jedi listened to her and all that. And I mean, that was just a really great touch. I mean, it was Ahsoka's character development. I mean, that was the entire book almost. But uh, I liked how they added the Inquisitors in there, and I love how they gave her lightsabers back. I say her lightsabers back; they're different ones, but it's
They gave him lightsabers in general.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just in two of them. It was just brilliant how they did that. There's so
Okay.
many little things about it. It's hard to pick one, but if I had to pick one, it'd be just her character development from the end of Clone Wars to the beginning of Rebels.
What did you like the least then?
What did I like the least? Um, Probably how I feel like the stormtroopers were nowhere near as thorough as they were in the movies and maybe the TV shows too. I mean, I know that stormtroopers are kind of stupid and they're meant to be to an extent, of course. But like even the captain, just letting her go right onto the landing platform and take her ship, and like Ahsoka bossed the captain of the landing platform around, even though that was Imperial. And I mean, that just I don't know. It doesn't seem like something that could fly in the movies or the book or the TV shows. And I mean, this could be just a completely different situation that I wasn't thinking of, but
Yeah.
it just doesn't seem like it fits completely.
Yeah.
It doesn't ruin the book by any means, but
Yeah. My
what's your
favorite
favorite and
part,
least favorite?
favorite. I really loved when Ahsoka got her lightsabers. I thought that was incredible. I thought it was awesome. Pretty much all the flashbacks from the Clone Wars, I really thought was awesome. And just like, reading this for the first time, getting like those different glimpses of like the transition between, I don't know, I love the Clone Wars, like that's my favorite era by far. And seeing the clones kind of transition to stormtroopers, I thought it's just very intriguing to me.
Yeah,
And so seeing like this is the first time I personally saw that like the transition from clones to storms. Like she was like wondering if the clone troopers, if they were a stormtrooper, if they were gonna recognize her because she's Ahsoka. And so I just those little details I really liked
yeah,
to
for
pay attention to.
yeah, least favorite.
Like I said, my least favorite is just like I get you need to have character development, but they put a lot into characters that they ended up killing, which I don't know. You kind of need honestly, I guess my biggest problem is the book is kind of short. I know it took you a while to read, but like if they had that much character development on these characters that they ended up killing, I feel like they could have added more to the series, to the book, or added another book in general.
Yeah,
Because
I
like
mean,
they kind of left it off on like, oh, she's working with Bail Organa now, and oh, Grand Inquisitor's looking for her, but we don't see that in the Rebels. We don't really. I mean, we kind of see it later in Rebels, but like also not really because Grand Inquisitor is also looking for Kanan and Ezra, so he's not
yeah,
really looking for Ahsoka, and Bail Organa is helping Fulcrum, but he's also helping the rebellion. So we don't really see that in the Rebels as much. Like I don't know. I feel like we could have gotten another book, and we still might. We never know, but I feel like they could add more. You know?
I I feel like the ending was almost a little bit rushed. Like I
Yeah,
think that they did it. I think it was done pretty well,
yeah.
but it
I very. I remember that now. Actually, I was reading the book, and I getting towards the end of the book, and I was like, uh, is everyone just gonna die?
yeah,
Like,
because
what's happening? And then that's kind of what happened. A lot of people just end up dying at once, and I was like,
yeah,
what the frick?
like chapter 30 I think was the last chapter, but like chapter 25 through 30 was not a whatever a sixth of the book. It was a bit less than that,
Yeah,
and I think at chapter 25 in chapter 30 so much action happened. And I mean,
yeah.
I think that could have been dragged out a little bit longer. I
I
mean,
agree.
not number wise, like chapter wise, but I mean, I feel like it wasn't really in depth as it could be.
I definitely agree.
But yeah, that's just something I forgot to mention. But yeah, I mean, still a great book. Of course, nothing's perfect except for Revenge of the Sith, but not everyone can live up to that.
That's the first. That's the novel. That's the OG novel. Almost everyone I've ever heard who has like a favorite novel. If Revenge of the Sith novelization by Matthew Stover is not their number one, it's always the top three. It's my number one. It's quite a few people I know on YouTube that I watch who are Star Wars fans. It's their number one. It's a very good book. I know this I know we're waiting or whatever for Ahsoka's book. So I recommend reading Revenge of the Sith, but just to end it on a good note for Ahsoka, like it's a book I recommend reading. Like it's not the best book out of just because the other books give you more. But like if you want a good Star Wars read and you're like, I want to know more about this character or I want to know more about this time, then yes, 100% read it. If you don't care about that time and that era, don't really worry about reading it. But if you just want a good Star Wars read, I definitely recommend. Um, Anything else, Afton?
And I think that's about it.
All right. Um, we're getting the podcast running up, so if you haven't already, hit that notification bell and that follow button on Spotify, the Anchor app, whatever podcast platform you listen to. On YouTube, hit that subscribe and that like, and just share, guys. I mean, I'm trying to get our content out there more because, you know, you start small, but you have to get big somehow. So if you enjoy Star Wars content, because that's strictly what we do, not strictly, but that's mostly what we do, then yeah, spread the Star Wars love, you know?